planning, and he currently works for Morgan Stanley. So topic for tonight, part of the topic areas that Jonathan and I have worked on together is to focus on the top 8 skills employers are seeking in new college grads. This is done by a NACE survey, which stands for National Association of Colleges and Employers. So they survey employers every year, ones that typically hire new college grads, and they ask them, what are you looking for? So one of the top 8 skills is teamwork or collaboration. So that will be Muhammad's topic tonight, specifically the importance of proactive communication and participation in team projects. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to record this. And students out there, if you have questions, I'll be moderating this. So if you have a question, put it in the chat and I will ask Muhammad. All right. All right, take it away.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you for that introduction. I really do appreciate it. And hi, everyone. My name is Muhammad. And today I want to talk about proactive communication and participation. And I'll be approaching this through a lens of my experience, my own experience, joining the workforce and especially in the midst of a pandemic and how that's been in this situation. And basically like what I've done to make sure that I'm successful and that I'm achieving my goals. And maybe I hope that those things can help you as well. So without any further ado, let's begin. So I'm a first-generation American born to 2 Guinean Fulani parents. Guinea is a country in West Africa bordering Sierra Leone, Senegal, the Ivory Coast, Liberia, among other countries in that region. We call it West Africa. So the predominant languages are Fulani, Maninka, Susu, and French. I speak both French and Fulani. And I spent most of my childhood living between Guinea and the US as a result of my parents living in different countries. This was challenging, but I did not think anything of it at the time. I always knew my upbringing was different, but I always saw myself belonging to any group of friends I met throughout my childhood adventures. I was certainly fortunate enough to have met friends who were welcoming. And also, I'm looking at a prompter at this moment as well, so you will notice my eyes dart back and forth. I wrote a whole presentation that I wanted to share with all of you guys, but hadn't memorized it, so forgive the eye rolling and going everywhere. But jumping back into it, I was certainly fortunate enough to have friends that were welcoming. And if I have to point to one thing that I learned in Guinea, it would be adaptability. I did my elementary, middle, and high school in both countries as well. As a matter of fact, I've never spent more than 3 years in any one institution in my K through 12. I graduated high school from Hastings in Westchester in 2016 and attended Alfred State College for my undergrad. While at Alfred, I participated as much as I could. I joined Taekwondo, ASA, which at the time was known as Ujima, and a few more clubs in my freshman year. Looking back now, I can honestly say that my involvement on campus made my college experience so much better than if I had not participated at all. I ended up on some boards, helped plan some events, attended even more events than I helped plan, and became the president of the Financial Planning Club in 2019. I was also a resident assistant in Mackenzie East, Mackenzie North, and Mangay A. Each one of these experiences taught me something unique about leadership, myself, and what I want to be in the future. I graduated from Alfred last year with a degree in personal financial planning. Currently, I'm working at Morgan Stanley, where I started in August last year. Morgan Stanley is one of the biggest financial services firms in the world, offering a suite of financial solutions from mergers and acquisitions to retirement plans and investment funds. We have 3 major divisions that break down into smaller business units. I work in wealth management under a team called the Corporate and Institutional Solutions Finance team, and I'm an analyst on that team. It took me some time to learn that title, so don't beat yourself trying to remember it. To understand a bit about what I do, think forecasting, budgeting, accruals, monthly reports, loads of charts, and so on. My team services the Morgan Stanley At Work business unit. MS at Work is basically a business unit that works with other companies and develops their retirement plans and equity compensation plans. For more information on Morgan Stanley at Work, you can just type Morgan Stanley at Work in your browser and it should be the first option. I had always wanted to work on Wall Street, so you can imagine the joy I felt when I got the offer from a prestigious company like Morgan Stanley. Diversity and inclusion are also very important to me. Morgan Stanley is thankfully one of the big firms putting this initiative in the forefront. It's actually one of our 5 core values. So now that you know a little bit about me, let's switch gears to today's topic of discussion. Teamwork makes the dream work, but today we will be going over what it takes to be a good teammate. I will specifically present on the importance of proactive communication and participation as you enter the workforce. I also interviewed my manager to get his insight into what makes a good team. As such, this presentation will be a mix of both of our experiences. So let's jump into it. The biggest indicator of a person's success is how well they communicate. The workplace, communication plays a key role as it is used to determine if you get fired, stay in your current role or position, or if you get promoted. If this is not reason enough to improve your communication skills, consider that being a good communicator will also open doors for you after college. I like to think that being a highly skilled individual without communication skills is like a business with a great product but no marketing. For the first part of this presentation, I will be going over what I did to proactively communicate in my first year of employment and how it worked for me. The only faces that are ever remembered are the ones that show up and stand out. Colleges understand the importance of participation, which is why there are always proactive efforts to organize events that students can participate in on campuses around the US. At Morgan Stanley, you are reviewed on initiatives you take outside of work obligations as well. So saying participation is important is an understatement. It is critical to your success. I will also share how I have been able to participate while working remotely in these challenging times. Starting off with proactive communication, one of the first pieces of advice that I received at Morgan Stanley was to make sure that I am maintaining visibility. Maintaining visibility simply means interacting with your coworkers and managers so that your work, to show your work and ensure that they know that you are both alive and working. This is relatively new. It's a new procedure to be proactive about as a result of the pandemic and the subsequent work from home measures that ensued. I did 2 main things to maintain visibility when I started working. The first thing I did was to communicate with my manager on a daily basis. I checked in every morning to show that I was active, but I was not asked to report in this manner. My team is very flexible and understanding, and my manager has done everything to make sure that I feel welcomed and not stressed too much, especially while working from home. For reference on that, we have not seen each other. We have not worked one day yet since I started working last year in the office together between me and my manager. That basically speaks to the gravity of the current situation, the pandemic that we're in. So this not only showed that I was alive and working, but it also helped in my relationship building with my manager. It showed that I was not closed off and created an aura of approachability around me. I also had daily deliverables, meaning emails that I had to send out on a daily basis that also advocated for my visibility. I often reached out to my manager after finishing my work to ask if he needed help. If he did not need help, I would reach out to other people on my team to help them instead. I work with Excel a lot and love automating my team's processes. That was most of the beginning of my career before I started taking over more routine tasks and ad hoc requests. And just for your reference again, ad hoc requests are basically one-time asks that come through from management or from other teams that need maybe some data, or they need you to run a report, or they need you to create a chart or some sort of thing like that. The next important thing to do, especially when you're just starting, is to show your work as well. Be sure, I did this for several reasons. One reason is that it helps my manager and teammates understand that what I could do when I started. This understanding made it easier for them to assign tasks to me and assign trainings for the things that I needed to learn. It also helped my manager create a plan for the deliverables he wanted to hand over to me. To be proactive with showing your work, always be sure to notify whoever gave you the task when you complete it. This is a demonstration of good communication skill, and it indicates that you are available for another task. Be sure to manage your time appropriately if there are multiple people on your team giving you tasks as well. Speaking of networking goals, it is critically important to make a networking goal when you start your professional career. One of the biggest strengths of a firm like Morgan Stanley, in my case, is the availability of a pool of talented individuals to connect with. This helps with exposure to events, career opportunities, upward mobility, social interaction, and more. What my manager said about this in particular is you never know who you will meet in an elevator. I would say you also do not want to be unprepared should that opportunity arise. I actively try to make sure that I'm socializing at work and would advise anyone else to do so. Initially, you will be mostly reliant on your immediate team to connect you with people outside of your team. However, as your network grows, you will find that connections come more naturally, and in some cases, you can be more passive about networking. Please be mindful that this assumption is way farther down the line when you are hopefully already well connected. I prioritize 3 buckets of relationships to have at work: technical, professional, and emotional. A technical support relationship helps you with work-related problems. So think Excel, if you have any queries that you pull, if you have day-to-day activities that you do in your work and you need to know how to do it. I guess the how is the best way to put it, is the definition of this technical relationship. There are people that you will get to know who are much better at certain skills than others, and so you can leverage those relationships for your technical support relationships. There is also emotional support, which emotional support is more like someone to talk through about your meetings or anything that goes on at work that does rile up some emotional or bring out an emotional reaction out of you. This is very important because it helps you relieve stress. And at the same time, it helps you look at anything you were distressed about from a different perspective. And professional development is the last thing, which professional development is more in tune with how you act professionally and your ability to develop in the professional world in general. So how your dress code, your interactions, how respectful you are, your communication, pretty much all encompassing. So how you approach achieving these goals you set for yourself is entirely up to you. I've noticed that in a lot of this, it sounds like there is a set method for approaching a lot of these goals or for doing things, but this is all a matter of creativity. You can approach a lot of these topics in whichever ways that you please. And it's always encouraged actually to be creative in your approach to achieving your goals as well. So the last main topic I want to cover today is participation. Having just finished talking about the importance of networking, I want to segue into how you can be proactive about participation, which can correlate with your networking growth. The first step in my experience is to join a networking group. Network groups help you connect with colleagues on topics outside of work. For instance, we have a Black employee network group, we have a Latino employee network group, we have an Asian employee network group, and we have a women in finance networking group, and so much more. Smaller companies do not tend to have network groups, but I think that gives you an opportunity to create one or to be creative about how you approach networking. For example, you can volunteer in your town or city and grow your network that way. You can also suggest networking team events if they never happen at your firm. If you suggest a new initiative, you take charge of it. This means that if you bring up an idea, I would highly encourage that you take on the charge of whatever those tasks are, assuming you can do all of it and run with it. To give an example on this, we have a person at the firm Morgan Stanley called Jeff McMillan, who is a managing director at Morgan Stanley, currently heading the data and analytics team. They deal with analyzing large data sets to understand patterns and create models. This is very recent. This is a very recent development, considering companies now can collect more data on their users than ever before. And so I say all of this to basically bring home the point that the importance of proactively engaging and participating and even suggesting ideas can lead to an entire development in the company that you end up heading, just like Jeff McMillan did. I've met a lot of cool people, learned a lot of new things, and improved my communication skills by participating as well. I also want to briefly talk about engagement outside of work. At Morgan Stanley, there is a huge emphasis on community. Different network groups host different events for charities, including marathons, donations, and more. Unfortunately, the pandemic has slowed in-person activities, but many of those same activities have moved online. I personally believe that participation is a boost to your personal and professional development. After college, you will notice that your social circles may not be all around you anymore, both physically and maybe your ability to reach out to them as well. Participating in your community helps you meet new people and also helps your company's image if they are hosting the event. Last thing I want to focus on here is a conversation that I had with my manager on the general topic of teamwork. I interviewed my manager for this interview as well, so these are the ideas that I was able to collect from him. There are 6 bullet points that I made here. The first one being personality. Everyone is different. An open personality is more likely to open opportunities. Do not be afraid to introduce yourself to someone or reach out. Make sure you are not the person who just goes to work, talks to no one, and goes home after. Priority. Prioritize your goals and tasks. This will help you keep an eye on the prize and not fall apart when you are new to everything and basically are going to fail in some cases. Without a vision, it is easy to cave under pressure. Culture. Understand the culture at your workplace. This will help you interact with colleagues and also empower you to contribute to your team. Consider that your opinion and contribution in a team is worth it and it matters, even if it is not the final decision taken. Learn as much as you can from your team leader as well. You want to be a leader in the future, so use your current leaders as inspiration. So we have talked about a few important steps to help you be a better teammate. Communication and participation are your tickets to success, and I have shared some of my experiences with you. First off, communication is key. You always want to make sure that you're staying in touch, and this is proactive at first, and especially in the pandemic, you want to be sure that you're reaching out and that every day is filled with communication. The next thing is participation, which at this moment, there's a huge emphasis on community, especially if you're working for a large firm. And so I would highly encourage everyone to join some kind of organization where they could volunteer in your neighborhood, in your town, in your city, wherever you are, and be out there, be approachable. Create and work on developing a good personality so that you're approachable, but also be the one doing the approaching. And understand that each one of these relationships you create for your network, you are not just benefiting from them, but they should be able to benefit from you too. This is a mutual endeavor, and the more value you can provide, the more value you will get in return. And so we have covered all of these topics. I hope this was helpful, and will make myself available for whoever wants to follow up after this meeting. Thank you all very much for coming, and I'm going to be taking questions now.
It's very insightful, Muhammad. I did have a follow-up question. What suggestions do you have for people that might have a little bit more reserved personality? So like a new work setting, a new social setting, that, suggestions that you have for anyone out there. It's not just students, it's everyday people. They might be more reserved, and how do they go about, like you're talking about, connecting? Someone that has a more reserved personality.
Right. That's an excellent question. And it's one that I had to ask myself as well while, going through this. But I consider myself a more reserved person as well. And I would say that, it's kind of scary to get out there and to interact with people and to mingle and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, something my manager really brought home when we talked about this, and I asked him that same question, is you're always afraid of anything before you do it for the first time. And so having the mindset, having the goal in mind will definitely help you kind of break those barriers. I don't know exactly what you could do to make it easier to get out and talk to people, but I guess the best thing you can do for yourself is just getting out there and trying in the first place, getting out there and making it a goal that you want to connect. So for instance, at Morgan Stanley, we have to set goals at the beginning of the year. And one of my goals was a networking goal where I made a goal to meet at least 2 people monthly, 2 new contacts monthly. And I had to reach out to these people. And so, you have to be proactive about who you reach out to. At the end of the day, the goal benefits you. And so I think even when you are reserved, it's a matter of weighing the pros and the cons against the discomfort that comes with maybe approaching other people. And is the goal worth it at the end of the day that you're trying to achieve? And that's kind of through the lens through which that I've been able to look at it. Did that answer your question, Maureen?
Yes, definitely. That's good feedback. Can you see the chat, Muhammad? Elaine just chimed in.
Let me see.
It's off. Elaine,
Yeah.
my boss, the director.
Yep.
She said, I really like your advice to be proactive, to communicate what you're working on. This is great. Regarding networking, just wondering what advice you have about LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, wow, that's a great question. And thank you, Elaine. I really appreciate it. LinkedIn, I think, is a huge, opportunity for anyone's professional network. I have a pretty large group of connections on LinkedIn myself, and I've tried to grow that since my freshman year. And I think it's something everyone should do. Put a professional appeal out there on LinkedIn, create a nice summary, put all of your work experience, at least relevant to the field that you want to get into, on your LinkedIn. And if you have friends that you've worked with in team projects or something like that, maybe after the project, connect with them and ask for endorsements or something like that, which will definitely help your profile stand out. And so I think those are all measures you can take to improve your LinkedIn, basically your engagement on LinkedIn and your visibility on LinkedIn. And I think it's imperative because a lot of employers are using LinkedIn to hire these days. And so I think it is imperative that you have a very good LinkedIn account, at least to the point where it looks like a resume. I think that's the way of the future, quite frankly. It's what's going to be used to hire. It's already being used to hire, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think having a good LinkedIn profile definitely helps in your career, in your search for a career. You're welcome.
How many, I did have a question. How many internships did you do? Didn't you do two financial planning internships?
So
back in your college years anyways.
Right. Yeah, no problem. I did an internship sophomore year going into junior year, and one from junior year going into senior year, all in the summer. And then I did a senior year internship for the spring, which was necessary to graduate. So 3 overall while I was in college.
Comments, anyone out there? Questions? He's always willing to help. We remember Muhammad coming through as a student not so long ago. He's always willing to help. We can probably share your LinkedIn. Well, you can find him on LinkedIn if you want to connect. So after this call, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the chat, there's a questionnaire for you students out there. Jonathan wanted me to put that in there, so if you could complete that, and I think that'll count towards your attendance today. But this was a great speaking points that you had. I think you really covered quite a bit in the time that you had. It wasn't overly like, you know what I mean? I think it was just the right amount of time. Actually, it was perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And for anybody who is looking to connect on LinkedIn, my name is Muhammed Esba, pretty much the same name you see on here with an S in the middle. That's for my middle name. But I'm not sure if Maureen is going to be able to share that with everybody, but I'm completely, for that. So Maureen, if you want to, if anyone asks and you're thinking about sharing it, I'm completely for it. So you can just share it with anyone.
Yes, I definitely can. I'll send that information on to Jonathan Hilscher. And also, again, just students complete the form on the questionnaire. Jonathan wanted that completed. Thanks again, Muhammad. Who knows? We might have you back again at some point, covering another topic. So,
thank you. It was wonderful.
Sounds good. No problem. Thank you, Maureen and Elaine. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you. Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a great evening.
All right. Yep. Bye.
Take care.